A question my grandma always asks me whenever I call her or see her, and a question I get asked by people who I haven't seen in a while and I'm catching up with is, do you have a girlfriend or are you dating anyone? I mean, grandma, it's only been 2 weeks since I called you, so no, I have not found a girlfriend in that time. But I say that understanding where they're coming from, right? I mean, I'm a 24-year-old single guy living in New York City of all places, the city known for its, fast casual dating environment. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not dating, nor do I have any real desire to date in the first place right now. Because I feel like dating is just one of those shoulds, right? It's like, especially in your 20s, you should be dating because why not, right? And I've felt that sort of, I don't know if you want to call it pure societal pressure, FOMO, whatever. You know, I've been on a couple dates in the year and a half since graduating from school from, living in New York City. Once when I first moved to the city, because it was like, oh, why not? I'm moving to a city, new city. Like, let's just, use this way to meet people. And then after, gosh, like a 6+ month gap, when I started to feel a bit antsy, because it was like I started to see some of my friends going on dates and getting into relationships. I'm like, maybe it's time I get back in the game or whatever, right? But each of those dates, and I will be totally honest, they were through dating apps. Each of those dates, they were fine and all, but they weren't anything really, I don't know, special to me. And I know you're saying like, dude, like you only went on 2 dates or whatever, but even just like the conversations that I was having with people, not just on like dating apps, but even people I'd meet, through friends of friends or at housewarmings and whatnot. And not just from a romantic interest standpoint, right? But just from a general relationship, which includes friends standpoint, I didn't really meet many people who I really resonated with, really found myself actually wanting to invest in and whatnot. But on top of that, one thing that I realized through going on these dates and that has really sort of kind of cemented my personal stance on dating, or actually like my kind of where I'm at with dating and relationships, is I'm at a point in my life where I'm just not willing to take on another project, a project in the form of a person. Because what I mean by that is I'm not saying that people need to be complete when they go into dating, nor should they be perfect. None of us are perfect, none of us are complete. But at the same time, we can take responsibility and ownership for completing or working towards completing ourselves, towards building a foundation within ourselves where a meaningful relationship can actually, you know, spring from, right? And that's where I sort of find some qualms, hesitations, whatever you want to call it that. But people just see dating as like again, like I said, like I should or why not, like they just go from date to date to date, relationship to relationship without ever really taking a moment to ask themselves why, right? Like it seems so blatantly obvious, right? Like we're all wired for connection and whatnot, so we should be dating, but are you dating to date or are you dating because you actually want to choose a life partner to build a life around? And that's my mindset, which we'll table for a second and I'll get back to this. But on top of that, right, before you're really able to build a life with somebody else, you have to build your own. At least that's how I think about it, right? How can you, I don't know, teach someone to ride a bike if you can't ride a bike yourself, right? Not that you're teaching your, or maybe you are teaching your partner how to ride a bike, but in the sense that people are so focused on building a life first, right? Which entails dating, romantic relationships, getting, I don't know, an apartment or buying a house, having kids, so on and so forth. But that is just a default script that we've all been sort of raised with and ingrained in us from a young age, right? A life, but not necessarily our life, right? And it doesn't really make sense to me that we all sort of follow this one cut mold for what a life should look like, right? That word should, when we're all unique. And in that sense, right, you try to build a life without building your own first. And then you end up, in your middle ages with I don't know, a mortgage, a wife, kids, a dog, Costco membership, whatever. And you're wondering, what the hell am I doing with my life? You've had all this sort of underlying frustration and resentment building up in the form of this slow burn of dissonance. And then it all sort of culminates together, and you realize that you built a life, but not your own. And that's when you start to see the unraveling, right? As we do so many people or stories that we've heard about. That's where I stand. I can't build a life with someone else yet until I've built my own. And the way that I think about it is a life is like a puzzle, right? And throughout your own life, as you get older, as you make decisions, as you have experiences, you start to get a picture of what the image looks like, what you want your life to look like. And as you slowly add pieces to the board, you get a better sense of what piece, what shape will fit into that, right? And that's the thing. You don't really know until you've built your own life first. Like that last piece is that partner, right? The partner who doesn't necessarily only complement your life, but also supplements your life, right? You're able to build a life together while also simultaneously building your own lives independently. And a big part of that, right? A big part of that comes down to each individual building their life first so that when they do cross paths and they do meet, they'll recognize in each other that there is this alignment in ways of being, of outlooks for the future, that line up, that don't necessarily take away from what each person is doing, but rather augments or adds value to, right? It's not like there needs to be a compromise where it's like haves or have nots. It's like, why can't we just have together? Why can't we make the pie of our collective lives bigger rather than just, I don't know, having a smaller pie or whatnot, right? I hope you get where I'm getting with that. But a big part of that, right, about building your own life is that, and kind of a roundabout way of getting back here is that, again, right, that what I mentioned earlier about projects, right? Your own life is the greatest project you'll ever work on. It's a project you will work on for the rest of your life being your project. You will work on that project for the rest of your life. And in that sense, you owe it to yourself to focus on building your life first before you think about starting another project with somebody else. And there's certain things that I feel like so many people, I don't want to say ignore because speaking from experience, you don't really know until you're at a point where you are just so desperate for solutions that, you're forced to make these changes, shifts, adjustments, whatever you want to call them. But there's so many key areas that are so foundational to being able to build this meaningful relationship with somebody else's meaningful life with somebody else. And of course, it starts with building your own life. To build your own life, as I talk about just about every single video, it starts with building a relationship with yourself. Because I'm not trying to claim myself as some dating expert or relationship expert or whatever, but just through the different sorts of material that I've read, listened, watched to, and through my own unpackings and understandings and just observations of people, so many people are just unconscious in terms of how they go about their day-to-day lives, especially when it comes to dating and romantic relationships, right? They don't understand themselves, right? They sort of just take themselves as they are, like, this is who I am, right? You know, but when you get triggered by something, when you get anxiety over something, when you feel like you're dating the same type of person over and over again, when you are in a relationship but you still feel lonely and empty, I hate to break it to you, but that's not just who you are, right? It's not like you're just gonna be like that for the rest of your life. There are deeper, deeply embedded things at play, things from your past that you don't even realize. And I say this as someone who spent the first 21 plus years of my life like this. And lo and behold, it took romantic interest to bring it out of me. But once I did, it was like a Pandora's box. And that really kicked off me building this relationship with myself. And in the time since, right, in graduating, in being an adult, in going on dates, in speaking to people who are in romantic relationships and hearing about their experiences, I can't help but observe and recognize just how much of these sort of, challenges that we typically face in dating are a result of unhealed trauma and wounds and not having a strong relationship with yourself. So that's a huge piece, right? If you don't understand yourself, it's going to be harder to understand and really know somebody else to the point at which you're able to form a meaningful relationship, to the point at which you're able to align on what you want your life together to look like. And that's where I'm at. You know, I'm not trying to say that I'm not open to dating anyone or getting into a relationship, but at the same time, I'm more focused on building my own life first. And who knows, right? Maybe I'll get into a relationship in a year. Maybe I won't. Maybe I won't get into a relationship until I'm in my late 20s, 30s, 40s. Who knows? And I'll also say this, I've actually never been in a long-term relationship before. And some of you might be thinking or scoffing, like, dude, who is this guy? Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about if he's never been in a relationship. Fair play. I'm sure there are some things that I don't know just because I don't have the first-hand experience. But I believe I know, rather, a lot of what I talk about is true. So that's where I speak from. That's where my thoughts, my perspectives lie towards dating or romantic relationships. And ultimately, I know it's cheesy. What's that quote where it's like, I don't chase, I attract or something? But that's seriously how I operate, where at the end of the day, I'm not actively seeking a romantic relationship. I'm not actively dating or looking, because I know that the decisions I make and will be making will ultimately put me on a path, put me in the environments to cross paths, to meet that someone who aligns with my way of being, who shares a similar perspective and outlook on life, who is able to both complement and supplement my life just as I will with hers. So, in that sense, I'm totally cool with being single for however long it may be, because at the end of the day, I've got myself, and I'll tell you, it ain't perfect. This relationship me and myself have got going, but my gosh, it is one that I love, one that I show up for, one that gives me so much fulfillment and joy, and one I feel entirely free in. So, those are my thoughts on dating and relationships, especially in this day and age. But I'm grateful that I've had this time to share them with you. And like honestly, I've been wanting to talk about this for a while in a video format, but I've always kind of been like, gosh, I've got to make like a full blown like thought out video. So I'm really enjoying this format, just like talking, like letting my thoughts run. Gives me so many more opportunities to address these sort of topics. So if there's anything that you'd like me to talk about, please let me know. Would love to talk about it. But additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and perspectives on dating, where you're currently at in your own life with that, and let's just continue the conversation. So, once again, I appreciate you for giving me the time and space to talk about this topic that has, been on my mind and, is a pretty active part of a lot of people's lives. So, appreciate you. Thank you, and I'll see you tomorrow.